Hey guys, it's Heather here with Underwater Panther, and I am now working on a whole new series for the Aquarian or INTJ. So, the series is talking about toxic and healthy masculinity and femininity. So, the first video was the introduction to the masculine and feminine energies in those forms individually, how it plays out toxic and healthy. And then I dove into the Aquarian, how that plays out for the Aquarian archetype through the planets and cognitive functions and how that can play out in relationships, work, life, and your inner self. So, my second video was the toxic versus healthy masculinity in Aquarians or INTJs, and this is now my third video. I did already launch my introduction to the masculine and feminine ebook. That is for free for the first 11 people, so do check that out in the description box below. After 11 people download that, I will shut down the limited time offer. So this is the third video in my masculine and feminine series for the Aquarian or INTJ. So now we're going to break down toxic versus healthy femininity, what that means as an archetype itself, and then how that plays out in the Aquarian or INTJ. So I need to get on the right video here, actually. All right, here we are. So we're going to keep the same framework as the prior video, and now we're going to dive into the feminine. So I will be getting into the planets, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Mercury, Sun, and Pluto, and then the cognitive functions through introverted intuition, extroverted thinking, introverted feeling, and extroverted sensing. So it gives you an archetypal language. Shadow versus healthy contrast. Toxicity is manipulation, and healthy is compassionate in the feminine archetype. We're going to talk about the Aquarian or INTJ specific struggle with the introverted intuition and extroverted thinking dominance while suppressing the more inferior cognitive functions, the introverted feeling and extroverted sensing inferior. And then we will talk about integration framing, not replacement, but balance. So, femininity isn't about being soft or weak, it's about connection, intuition, and creativity. But when that energy turns toxic, it becomes manipulation, victimhood, or passivity. For Aquarians or INTJs, the struggle shows up in unique ways through your planets and your cognitive functions. And hopefully we will reveal the path to balance. So feminine energy is the side of us that's about receptivity, flow, empathy, and intuition. It's not about gender. It's about a universal archetype that lives in everyone. It's the part of us that listens, nurtures, and builds connection. In astrology, you can see it in Neptunian's dreamlike openness, or in the softer side of Mercury when it communicates with compassion instead of control. In psychology, it's introverted feeling, bringing us back to your personal values, and extroverted sensing, grounding us in the richness of the present moment. But like all energies, femininity has both shadow and light. In its toxic form, it shows up as manipulation, passive aggression, guilt tripping, or playing helpless. Instead of connecting, it tries to control indirectly. In its healthy form, it becomes authentic, emotionally expressive, compassionate, creative, and open. It's vulnerability that builds trust, not drama. For Aquarians or INTJs, this energy is often suppressed in favor of masculine logic and structure. Introverted intuition and extroverted thinking take the lead, planning, organizing, and predicting. And because introverted feeling and extroverted sensing sit in the back seat, feminine energy can leak out sideways in unhealthy ways, sulking instead of speaking up, withdrawing into aloofness, or using silence as control. The work of integration isn't to get rid of masculine logic. It's to welcome the feminine back in so your strength and your softness can exist together. That's when your Aquarius or INTJ archetype becomes whole. So now we're going to get into the planetary archetypes of toxic versus healthy femininity. So Saturn, we're going to start with ruling Saturn. Saturn represents boundaries and authority, and you can tie in extroverted thinking here as well. Saturn is all about rules, structure, and authority. In the feminine frame, it's how we hold emotional and relational boundaries. In its toxic feminine form, Saturn manipulates boundaries indirectly. Oh, I just lost my place. Sorry, I'm like trying to edit as I go. Thought I already did. All right, here we go. So Saturn manipulates boundaries in the toxic feminine form indirectly. Instead of saying, I need space, it guilt trips or plays martyr. After everything I do for you, you can't give me this. For Aquarians or INTJs, that often looks like suppressing needs, then resenting when others cross invisible lines. In its healthy form, feminine form, Saturn is compassionate but firm. It says clearly, I care about you, and this is what I need in order to feel respected. This is where extroverted thinking gains balance from introverted feeling, so structure protects connection instead of choking it. Uranus represents vision and independence and also ties in the introverted intuition. Uranus gives Aquarians or INTJs their independent, visionary streak. In its toxic feminine form, it collapses into no one understands me, so why bother? This plays out as aloofness, disappearing, or using mystery to gain power in relationships. In its healthy feminine form, Uranus becomes intuitive guidance. It shares insights, not to prove superiority, but to connect and inspire. For INTJs, this might look like saying, here's the future I see, and I want to walk toward it with you. It's openness, not isolation. Neptune represents dreams and security, and it also has an extroverted sensing undercurrent. Neptune dissolves boundaries and longs for connection. In its toxic feminine form, Neptune drifts into escapism. It clings to fantasy or nostalgia for safety or plays helpless to avoid responsibility. I can't handle this. You can take care of it. In its healthy form, Neptune nurtures comfort and stability. It creates safe emotional spaces without smothering. For Aquarians or INTJs, this could be allowing vulnerability. I feel uncertain. Can we figure this out together? That openness builds intimacy instead of avoidance. Mercury represents communication and the mind, which can be the extroverted thinking, introverted feeling axis. In its toxic feminine form, Mercury avoids direct expression, using gossip, silence, or some subtle hints to manipulate. It expects people to just know rather than voicing yourself. In its healthy feminine form, Mercury expresses emotions with clarity and empathy. It balances extroverted thinking's logic with introverted feelings' honesty. For an INTJ, this might look like, when this happens, I feel unseen. Here's what I need instead. Clear, compassionate, and connection-oriented. The sun represents ego and identity. The sun is our ego, our sense of identity. In its toxic feminine form, it plays small to seek validation, performing helplessness, exaggerating weakness, or centering identity around being rescued. In its healthy feminine form, the sun radiates authentically. It shines simply by being receptive, open, and secure in its worth. For Aquarians or INTJs, this is stepping out of the misunderstood outsider role and instead modeling how to stand confidently in uniqueness without demanding attention. Pluto represents transformation and the shadow, which is also the superego gateway. Pluto is about shadow and transformation. In its toxic feminine form, Pluto collapses into victimhood to gain control. It says, I'm powerless, so you have to save me. This keeps others hooked through guilt. In its healthy feminine form, Pluto allows graceful surrender. It embraces transformation and rebirth without fear, saying, I may not have control, but I trust the process. For Aquarians or INTJs, this means leaning into vulnerability as a source of strength, not weakness. So each planet shows us a choice: toxic femininity that manipulates, escapes, or collapses, or healthy femininity that nurtures, connects, and expresses with authenticity. For Aquarians or INTJs, the challenge is to stop suppressing introverted feeling and extroverted sensing, and instead let them join introverted intuition and extroverted thinking in balance. So your inner feminine doesn't leak out in shadow, but flows in healthy, creative form. So now we're going to move into the cognitive functions and the feminine energy. So we're going to start with introverted intuition, which represents vision and foresight. And that is your dominant function, the long-range visionary. In its toxic form, introverted intuition withdraws into aloofness, a kind of mystical victimhood. It says, nobody understands my vision, so I'll just keep it to myself and suffer quietly. That creates distance and manipulation through silence. In its healthy feminine form, introverted intuition becomes intuitive guidance that invites connection. Instead of withdrawing, it shares its insights as gifts. Here's what I see for the future, and I'd love to explore it with you. For Aquarians or INTJs, that's turning your foresight into shared inspiration rather than a private prison. Extroverted thinking deals with systems and structure. TE organizes the external world. In its toxic feminine form, extroverted thinking manipulates through subtle control. Instead of openly setting structure, it uses guilt or passive remarks. I guess I'll just do it myself since no one else cares. This is structure turned into silent resentment. In its healthy feminine form, extroverted thinking communicates needs clearly but softly. It still values efficiency and boundaries, but it delivers them with care. For Aquarians or INTJs, that might sound like it would help me a lot if we followed this plan. It makes things easier for both of us. Introverted feeling represents your values and integrity. It is your inner child, the sensitive values compass. In its toxic feminine form, introverted feeling over-identifies with emotion. It plays martyr. Look at how much I sacrificed and nobody appreciates me. It manipulates connection through guilt. In its healthy feminine form, introverted feeling shares emotions openly and authentically. It says, I feel hurt when this happens, and I value honesty between us. This is not manipulation, it's vulnerability, and it builds intimacy. For Aquarians or INTJs, this is often the missing piece because introverted feeling gets suppressed under NI and TE dominance. And then we have extroverted sensing, which represents presence in the moment and action. In its toxic feminine form, extroverted sensing may overindulge or use sensuality for control, playing helpless or seductive to get needs without responsibility. It avoids reality by clinging to distraction. In its healthy feminine form, extroverted sensing embraces embodied presence. It says, I'm here, I'm grounded, and I'm open to experience. For Aquarians or INTJs, this could be as simple as slowing down to enjoy the sensory world, eating mindfully, walking without distraction, or creating beauty in your environment. Healthy extroverted sensing makes your feminine energy vibrant and alive. So, just like with the planets, your cognitive functions hold both shadow and light. Toxic femininity shows up as guilt, silence, or manipulation. But healthy femininity emerges when you let introverted feeling express honestly, extroverted sensing ground you, introverted intuition connect instead of isolate, and extroverted thinking guiding with clarity instead of control. So, why do Aquarians or INTJs struggle with femininity? As an Aquarius or INTJ, you're wired to lead with masculine functions, the NI and TE. You trust structure, foresight, and independence. And as a fixed air archetype, you crave control through clarity. The challenge is that your feminine functions, the introverted feeling and extroverted sensing, feels less safe. Introverted feeling feels too tender and too vulnerable. Extroverted sensing feels chaotic, too in the moment. So what happens? You suppress them. You tell yourself, I will rely on logic and vision instead. Feelings and presence just slow me down. But here's the paradox. When you push your feminine side down, it doesn't disappear. It leaks out in toxic ways. So, work example, instead of asking for support directly, you'll say, I'll just do it myself, then silently resent your team. That's toxic, feminine, extroverted thinking at play. Relationship example, you feel misunderstood, so you withdraw into aloofness, waiting for your partner to figure it out without you saying a word. That's toxic, feminine, introverted intuition. Inner life example. You suppress introverted feeling for so long that when emotions finally break through, they come out as guilt tripping, martyrdom, or passive aggression. This creates distance instead of building intimacy. Your feminine energy sabotages it. Partners feel shut out, friends see you as detached. Inside, you feel unseen, but the truth is, you're hiding the very part of yourself that wants to be seen. And this is why femininity is often the hardest path for Aquarians or INTJs. It requires vulnerability, admitting needs, being present in the moment, and allowing softness. These are the very things your archetype resists, but they're also the exact medicine that brings you back into balance. So, the good news, once you stop suppressing your feminine energy and start integrating it, those leaks disappear. Instead of manipulation or withdrawal, you express directly. Instead of guilt, you offer compassion. Instead of isolation, you create connection. That's where your archetype becomes whole. I've got some sage going. I got tons of candles going. My throat's going crazy. And it's definitely harvest season, and we are in fall. So my allergies. All right, so now we're going to go into section 5 with practical shifts. In this section, we're going to balance practical tools with archetypal depth. So you can leave with things that you can actually do today. Goodness gracious, I might not have to blow my nose. All right, I think I'm good. All right, so we can go from manipulation to authenticity, replace hints with direct expression, From passivity to receptivity, accept help without guilt or dependence. From victimhood to vulnerability, share fears honestly instead of using them as control. From fantasy to grounded presence, use extroverted sensing practices like walking, cooking, or sensory grounding. From isolation to connection, share your introverted intuition visions as gifts instead of walls. So here's how you move from toxic femininity, manipulation, passivity, and guilt into healthy femininity, authenticity, receptivity, and compassion. For Aquarians or INTJs, this is the work of balancing NI and TE with FI and SE. Let's break it down by archetype. So Saturn and extroverted thinking, we're going from martyrdom to compassionate boundaries. Toxic trap, saying I'll just do it myself while resenting others. Shift, state boundaries directly but with empathy. Practice, next time you feel overburdened, instead of silently carrying the load, say I need your help here. It will make things smoother for both of us. Uranus and introverted intuition, going from aloofness to shared vision. Toxic trap, withdrawing into no one understands me. Shift, share your vision as connection, not distance. Practice, once a day, tell someone close to you one future insight, but frame it as an offering, not a verdict. Here's something I see coming. What do you think? And then we have Neptune going from escapism to nurturing security. Toxic trap, fantasizing, avoiding responsibility, or clinging to nostalgia. Shift, create emotional comfort instead of escaping into fantasy. Practice, build one grounding ritual like journaling, listening to music, lighting candles, yoga, walking, where you nurture both yourself and anyone around you. Mercury and extroverted thinking and introverted feeling axis, we're going from hints to honest expression. Toxic trap, expecting people to just know, using silence or sulking. Shift, use vulnerable honesty instead of manipulation. Practice, replace one indirect comment with a clear statement of feeling. When this happens, I feel this. What I need is that. Sun, from performing weakness to radiating authenticity. Toxic trap, playing small or helpless to get attention. Shift, show up authentically, receptive, but confident. Practice, catch yourself fishing for validation. Instead, pause and affirm, I am enough as I am. I don't need to improve. I don't need to prove to somebody or perform. That's a huge thing for Aquarians to shift. Performance, the extroverted sensing is performance based, and a lot of Aquarians think that they can perform for loyalty and validation. And respect. Definitely sit and think on that because performing does not gain loyalty, respect, or validation, honestly. It's a huge mental shift there. So Pluto, from victimhood to vulnerable transformation. Toxic trap, collapsing into I'm broke, fix me. Shift, vulnerability as empowerment. Asking for support, not rescue. Practice, the next time you feel powerless, say, I'm afraid right now, but I'm willing to face it and grow. That shift from collapse to courage changes everything. And then we have introverted feeling and extroverted sensing, the feminine keys. Introverted feeling practice. Share one authentic value or feeling each day without apology. Example, I really value honesty, so here's what's true for me. Extroverted sensing practice. Do one sensory grounding activity daily. Walk barefoot, cook a meal slowly, listen deeply to music, and stay present. These practices may seem small, but they rewire your energy from manipulation to authenticity, from guilt to compassion, from isolation to connection. For Aquarians or INTJs, this is how your feminine energy becomes a strength, not a shadow. Toxic femininity isn't about softness, it's about distortion. It's what happens when emotions turn manipulative, when intuition turns into aloofness, or when vulnerability collapses into victimhood. For Aquarians or INTJs, this often shows up because introverted intuition and extroverted thinking dominate, while introverted feeling and extroverted sensing gets suppressed. But when you step into healthy femininity, everything shifts. Feminine energy becomes authenticity, compassion, creativity, and presence. Instead of manipulating, you express directly. Instead of hiding, you connect. Instead of collapsing, you raise with grace. And here's the truth. Your feminine side is not your weakness. It's your missing balance. It's what softens your vision so others can join it. It's what grounds your structure so it doesn't become rigid. It's what makes you not just powerful, but whole. All right, so this is part 2 of the series. We've looked at masculinity and femininity separately, but the real magic happens when you integrate them together. In the next video, I'm going to bring it all full circle. We're going to talk about how to unite your healthy masculine and feminine energies so you stop living in extremes and start living in balance. So if you want to start practicing today, download my free guide, which is in the link below. I have multiple books at this point for free. Check those out. They're on triggers, boundaries, finding your purpose, and now the masculine and feminine energies. So there's 5 free right now, and that is a limited time offer, so do jump on that. So those are filled with exercises and journaling prompts to help you integrate all of those issues I just mentioned. So I would love to hear from you. Where do you notice toxic femininity sneak in for you through hints, guilt, or withdrawal? Drop it in the comments because awareness is the first step to change. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the integration video. That's where everything comes together. Thank you so much for your time, and I will see you on the next video.